It is official. He is officially the greatest shooter in the history of man. I'm talking about the one and only Steph Curry. That's why Jay's here. I mean, he got other stuff on his mind because it's Jay Williams. So we never know what the hell he got on his mind. And I see my man Swagoo. He flossing today. He flossing today. Not only does he have on a blazer and not just a shirt, but he rocking some glasses, which I must admit look pretty damn good. I got to give credit where credit is due.
It's normal.
That is until we start talking football. Then that's a different matter entirely. First takes in the house. Let's go.
What was that meme when COVID steals your plans? Yeah, that's what happened here. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski has tested positive for COVID-19. That according to the team. And our Adam Schefter is reporting that Baker Mayfield has also tested positive for the virus. If both don't produce 2 negative tests in time for Saturday's game against the Raiders, they will not be available. The Browns are among many teams dealing with COVID issues, something to monitor. Here we go, gentlemen. Numbers climbing, unfortunately. Stephen A., your reaction to the latest, and good morning, Marcus. Good to see you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I don't want this to be taken wrong.
Okay.
I think the first words that need to come out of my mouth is that I'm wishing Kevin Stefanski, I know his dad, Ed Stefanski, very, very well. I love that man. We go back a long ways. I'm wishing Kevin Stefanski, Baker Mayfield, and anybody on the Browns or anybody in the NFL the best of health, hoping that everybody comes back healthy and they're going to be all right. But I got to tell you something that's been on my mind and on my heart for the last few weeks. I'm glad this is happening. Because I think people have dropped the ball in terms of embracing the level of seriousness and urgency as it pertains to COVID-19. We actually walk around like there is still not a global pandemic going on. I'm not talking everyone, of course. There's millions of people who address it with the seriousness that it deserves, fellas, Molly. But there are far too many people that are not treating this with the seriousness that it deserves. And the fact that there's a vaccine out there has given people even more of an excuse to drop the ball instead of addressing the level of seriousness that needs to become associated with this, guys. That's where I'm at with it. We walk around, we got people in our faces, we get in other people's faces, we're not taking into account. This stuff is still going on and it needs to be treated seriously. And so because something like this pops up, it reminds the NFL, it reminds professional athletes, it reminds everybody just walking around, at least in the United States of America, because that's what I can speak to, because I haven't left the country since the pandemic. The bottom line is that this is not over. And anything that will remind us that it's still going on without people losing their lives, without people getting incredibly sick and stuff like that. Of course, we're not wishing something like that on anybody. But every now and then, you need to be reminded, this is not over. It's far from over, and it needs to be treated with the seriousness it deserves, Swagoo.
Well, Stephen A., obviously you make the very logical and great point, but that's not how football has been operating. And I get it. I understand what you're saying about us in our personal life. But when you look at this particular situation and you look at all of the situations that's going on in the NFL, and I get it that protocols are in place and things are quote unquote being done to keep players safe, it's not going to. Like, that's the bottom line. So, look, there's always 2 parts, right? You can get vaccinated. You can still get COVID. You have a better chance of not fighting symptoms or ending up in the ICU or potentially on your deathbed. Better chance. That's just facts. That's not an opinion or feelings intertwined in that. The other part is football has been trudging along. Last year, obviously not having fans in the stands, and then you saw that starting to lighten up towards the end of the season. The bottom line is this, man. Like, you have to try to avoid this as much as possible. This won't be the last week we lose the prominent names on football teams. And coincidentally, me covering football every single day, I can't help but to think about when we potentially get to SoFi in LA, if you have this situation arise during the week of a Super Bowl, what is the protocols for that as well? So look, to your point, Stephen A., everybody, wish them well, hope they come back very healthy, because I think we throw that kind of out there with the assumption that players will come back healthy when we have examples of players saying, I didn't feel right for a while after I returned after battling or fighting COVID. So hopefully these guys can come back and be at full strength. But the bottom line is, to your point, S.A., it's not over. And I'm afraid that what we're seeing now will have some type of effect when we get to the playoffs and we get around the Super Bowl. And that's a heavy concern, but the NFL is going to continue to go forward.
I certainly hope not. But yes, cases ravaging both the NFL and NBA. And to your point about the Super Bowl, I know Diana Rossini was reporting on Get Up earlier. Owners are currently meeting in Dallas. Top of the agenda, COVID protocol. So being proactive there. Let's keep it rolling, though. I don't want this to steal the shine of Chef Curry with the shot. A historic night at the Garden. I wish I was there. Steph Curry set the NBA record for career three-pointers, passing Ray Allen, who passed Reggie Miller, both in attendance. A beautiful moment in the NBA fraternity, And of course, for arguably the greatest shooter ever, Stephen Curry. Let's hear from him.
It was a beautiful, I'll call it, ending to this last week, and the build up to getting this number, and there's a special atmosphere. I knew the Garden would deliver in terms of just how iconic this place is, but I can't say it enough. I appreciate so much the way the fans embraced the moment with me and let me just kind of get lost in it, and I could feel it once I took the shot on the wing, and it felt good, looked good. And it went in. It felt like we were at home. We'll see what happens, but that's something that the balance of volume and efficiency for me is the standard that I wanted to set. And I never want to call myself the greatest shooter until I got this record, so I'm comfortable saying that now.
Huge congrats to Steph Curry, his beautiful family in attendance. What a special moment. Yeah. Stephen A., I'll start with your reaction to Steph's milestone at the Garden, the Mecca, nonetheless.
Well, for me personally, obviously, it's mixed emotions. I mean, we ain't gonna sit up here.
Don't make this about you.
Well, it has to be about him. I'm so curious to hear your breakdown on this.
Molly, I would remind you that you prefaced the question by saying, Stephen A. I was taking a ride over here, and I was telling my driver, the Uber driver, I was like, you know what, man? I said, people don't realize I'm not sitting at home interfering in somebody else's business. You asked me a question, I answered. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how I feel. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter God ever created.
Amen.
I've said that on many. Many occasions. He is the babyface assassin. I knew it years ago that he was the greatest shooter we have ever seen. His ball handling skills, his movement without the ball, the elevation of his basketball IQ, his selflessness, the way players rally around him because they want to produce for him and they want to see him shine. They feed off of all of these things. This dude is something special. He is something to behold. He's a generational kind of talent. He deserves all the accolades in the world. I'm happy for him. I've known Del Curry for years. I'm very happy for him. His wonderful mother, I'm very happy for her. His wife, I'm happy for her. I'm happy for Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors. I love the fact that Draymond Green, my only regret is I wish that Draymond was the one that assisted instead of Andrew Wiggins, not to knock Andrew Wiggins in any way, but so many of those assists, so many of those passes that Steph Curry received to set up his open shots throughout the years has come courtesy of Draymond Green. So it would have been great if he was the one that gave that assist on that last shot. All of that's true. Having said that, it's rare in a moment where I disagree with Spike Lee. And to see him there smiling and taking those pictures and stuff like that, my brother, I feel you, and Spike Lee's a historian. Just go to his office and you'll know what I'm talking about. The brother's a historian, okay? I was glad I wasn't at the Garden last night. I was flying back from L.A. I didn't want to go. I would have had to have gone there had I been in New York.
You would have lost your mind.
But I didn't want to be there.
Why?
Because I'm a Knicks fan. And this is yet the latest example where if I had a rug for you, Molly, You know who the Knicks are? They're that rug that everybody steps on and wipes their feet before they go into a posh home. It could be Kobe in the 61. It could be LeBron in the 60. It could be Jordan in the double nickel. It could be Reggie Miller in the 8 seconds.
You ain't lying.
It could be all of this, Molly. Hold on, Molly.
I didn't say anything. I'm just shaking
my head. I know where you're going.
Jay Williams
I'm not even
knows.
talking.
Jay Williams knows I'm spitting facts here. The New York Knicks are the rug that everybody steps on and wipes their feet before they go in to the Mecca, which is Madison Square Garden, and puts on a show. And Steph Curry was the latest dude last night. The New York Knicks have lost 4 straight. They lost 7 of 8 games. Mm-hmm. They are 12-16. At this moment in time, they're sorry. And that is not my expectation from it. So again, I'm very happy. Listen, I was in Philadelphia Saturday night. Steph Curry knows how I feel about him. The Golden State Warriors know how I feel about him. You know I know a lot of people in that organization. They're first class all the way. I'm very happy for him. But I'm a native New Yorker, and I'm a Knicks fan. And somebody got to say it, and since Spike Lee clearly won't, somebody needs to. It's just hard. I'm happy for Steph Curry, but it's hard to watch the Knicks as everybody's fear with all the great moments that happen at Madison Square Garden. 99.99% of them come from the other team, and it makes me sick. Go ahead, Jay.
You did have R.J. Barrett, Obi Toppin, health and safety protocol.
It wouldn't have made a difference, and you know it.
Okay. I just wanted to state that.
Thank you.
Did feel like a home game last night for Golden State.
It was a home game.
Which is embarrassing. But I do want to, what? It's kind of embarrassing that it's.
Because Knicks fans were being classy. This
They were
was
classy.
about history.
They were classy.
I understand.
This isn't even about the
They were
Knicks.
classy.
And it's about what the Mecca represents. This is about Steph Curry.
I respect all that. It's still something for it to feel like a home game for the opposing team. That's all I'm saying. I was in.
You guys are unbelievable.
Just a little
Keep
bit.
going.
Well,
Keep
you know
going.
I like to for him. Just a little bit.
Keep it going.
Let's make sure. Let's see a good, big moments go on in stores at the expense of UConn and see how Molly acts. Please, I ain't trying to hear
Got some
that. You know how
championships.
you are.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Banners. We hang banners. Keep going.
I did want to express a detail that I thoroughly enjoyed, and there was no better way for him to get the record than to finish it with this detail. The way the ball goes in the hole matters. For real shooters, and you know about this, getting thousands of shots up every single day. We would play this game in college. I know Steph played this game with his dad. It's called -7 + 7. So for every missed shot, you get 2 points, +2. If the ball goes in and hits the rim, you get +1. And the goal is to have so many shots that make this sound, that you get to -7, and that's how you win the ultimate competition.
Yep.
The game of basketball has been such an isolation game, right? Michael Jordan, pinch post, Kobe, pinch post, the way they operated. The way Steph, moving without the ball, for him to backpedal at full speed, to catch the ball, to rise, to lift, over Alec Burks, to make that shot with that sound in the mecca of basketball. There is something special about that from a real basketball playing perspective, because that's purity. And I think when I see him now, I think of purity, shooting purity. And that's something that nobody can ever take away from him. But I am willing to also move the ball down the field for Steph, because I know that once this is over, there's something about being the greatest shooter. And also now I think the next step for Steph is in those big moments, in those clutch moments. Just know that his brain, this is not enough. He wants to be next level. He wants to be different. And this is his year. If Clay comes back, hopefully they do, him and James Wiseman, to have these clutch moments where all this talk about him not doing things in the clutch, or, oh, look at Steph shrinking in these moments. This is his year to shut all those naysayers up. And just know that as much as he got this whole crazy thing, his threes, and he beat Ray Allen, beat Reggie Miller, that his brain is moving on to winning a championship. And I think that's what I expect about him, the respect about him the most, for how he thinks and how he competes.
Yeah. But I hope he takes a moment to relish in all of it and enjoy all this goodness, all this hard work.
He did last night.
And that's
Meanwhile, across the bridge, Steph's former teammate carried the Nets to an overtime win over the Raptors with 7 members of the Nets in COVID protocols, including James Harden. KD played 48 minutes. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Who's had the more impressive season thus far? Would you say it's Steph or KD?
To me, it's Steph Curry.
Why?
I feel that way. We see the points that he's averaging. We see the marksmanship. We see how great he is. But more importantly, we see the kind of season the Golden State Warriors are having. And that doesn't mean the Brooklyn Nets have fallen off the wagon. We understand that's not the case. They're still winning games. They're still the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. KD has been putting on an absolute show. I think it's neck and neck in terms of league MVP honors. I'm not trying to act like Steph has it with ease, Jay, or by a mile. I'm certainly not implying that. But I think that when you combine his greatness combined with the Golden State Warriors and what they've been doing this season and fantasies that we have about them ultimately winning the chip, then I compare that to KD, and here's what I come up with. A sensational dude, a professional scorer, an individual, while Steph Curry may be the greatest shooter in the history of basketball, KD might go down as the greatest scorer in the history of the game before all is said and done. I'm not trying to dismiss anything he's doing. Here's my problem, and it's just a preference, Jay.
It's where he's doing it at?
No.
Okay.
Actually, no. Actually, even though that I would have preferred the Garden, we all know this.
Yes.
And I think in hindsight, he would have preferred the Garden, but that's just me. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm looking at this schedule. Let me throw this by you, Jay. They opened the season with a loss to Milwaukee. They've lost to Charlotte. They've lost to Miami. They've lost to the Chicago Bulls. They got blown out by the Golden State Warriors. They lost to the Phoenix Suns. They lost to the Chicago Bulls again. They lost to the Houston Rockets. And I'm just looking at these teams that are playoff caliber teams, and so many of them you've lost to. And here's where I walk away. Here's what I walk away feeling, Jay. And I don't wish this because I love KD. If the Brooklyn Nets don't win the chip, but Golden State does, Kevin Durant is on the verge of being more recognized for the guy who left Steph Curry to join forces with Kyrie Irving than a guy who won 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs. That's where I'm at with it.
So on one hand, when he goes to Golden State, that's the weakest move. And now, because he left and he decided to go with Kyrie, you're going to hold that against him as well, even though Kyrie's not playing this year.
Time out. I will remind you, be very, very sensitive about bringing up that subject about me calling it the weakest move, because you were the host of the boardroom where KD and I had a one-on-one conversation. And you was there. You emceed the conversation. So we addressed all of that.
I understand.
All right, so don't just bring that up.
I'm not just putting it into perspective, that's all.
But I'm
providing context. That's all I'm saying.
I put it in perspective. I did that day, right in front of his face. You know that.
The race is neck and neck.
Okay.
But I don't understand what you're talking about. When you start going through the list of teams that they've lost.
They're playoff caliber teams.
Let me. Who has the better conference in the NBA right now? Is the Eastern Conference better than the Western Conference?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's number one. Number two.
Time out. There's been some injuries. There's been some injuries. Miami's had some injuries. Philadelphia's had some injuries.
Top to bottom, Stephen A. Who's the best conference?
I'm going to give it
You're going to go to the East. You're going to go to the East.
For the moment.
Okay, we're going to go to the East.
Because
that's
LeBron
number one.
missed 11 games.
All right, they're number one seed in the East. Okay. They have, the Golden State Warriors have 3 more wins than the Brooklyn Nets.
They blew out Brooklyn.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
What is Kevin Durant shooting from the field?
50, I don't have it in front of me.
52%?
52% and 37% from 3-point range.
So he's close to 50, 40, 90?
Yes.
What is Steph Curry shooting from the field?
I haven't looked.
42%.
Okay.
And he's shooting close to 40% from the 3-point line.
Okay.
Who leads the NBA in scoring?
KD.
Okay. So they play in the better conference. They lead the NBA in scoring. Mm-hmm. They're shooting a better true shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage from the field. Mm-hmm. How could you have Steph with a slight advantage over Kevin Durant for MVP?
Because I just explained it. You want me to regurgitate
I would
my
like for you
comments?
too, because maybe it didn't register with all the facts that I just gave.
No. Because again, you're looking at things just from a percentage perspective. I'm looking at impact. I'm looking at the impact that Steph Curry has had on the rest of his team as well. Without Klay Thompson, without James Wiseman, I'm looking at that.
So I'm looking at impact in Kevin Durant when James Harden hasn't been himself.
Well, you asked me the question exactly. And
Kyrie Irving hasn't been on the floor.
Time out. And who do you think is partially responsible for that?
What do you mean?
Excuse me. Yes, they're professionals and they got a job to do, and they're coming up short. But who's the face of the franchise?
Kevin Durant is.
Okay, so if something's going wrong with the Los Angeles Lakers, don't we look at LeBron?
Stephen A. Stop.
Don't we look at it?
Stop it.
Don't we look at it?
Why are you? So now you're putting that on. So you're putting James Harden's ability to try to get people involved, even though he's averaging like 8.5, 9 assists. You're putting his lack of scoring on Kevin Durant. That's Kevin Durant's fault.
Hold on. Excuse me. Haven't you looked at James Harden and you said he could be better?
James Harden can be better, but I'm not putting that on Kevin Durant.
Excuse me.
I'm looking at Kevin Durant picking up the slack for James Harden not being what he's supposed to be, what he was last year.
Do you not have conversations about leadership? Do you not bring that up?
Wow, now we're questioning Kevin Durant's leadership.
I'm not questioning anything. I'm asking you a question. Do we not look at the face of a franchise and look at them and not just look at their own individuality, but the effect that they have on the players around them?
They're number one in the East in a better conference. I don't know where you're going with your conversation.
Well, then you don't comprehend.
I'm not comprehending. That's why I need you to help me comprehend.
The Golden State Warriors are a better team. I believe that Steph Curry has had a greater impact on his team's success than Kevin Durant has had. I believe Golden State is better than Brooklyn, and I believe that if Kevin Durant does not win the chip in Brooklyn, and this part I think is totally unfair to Kevin Durant. I think it's totally unfair to Kevin Durant. But I do believe that if Kevin Durant is watching Steph Curry win a championship, people are going to look at Kevin Durant and say, you left Steph Curry for Kyrie Irving. I believe that.
But that's what you wanted Kevin Durant to do.
Stephen
You wanted him to leave, Stephen A. That's why I don't understand your reasoning.
It was held against him for leaving. Now he chooses to do it on his own.
I don't know what side you're coming at it from.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I love when I frustrate you like this.
You do frustrate me.
I know I do.
Both of y'all do, because it ticks me off when you act like you're not comprehending what I'm saying. Yes, I wanted Kevin Durant to go someplace else and win a championship, okay? I would have preferred the Knicks, but that's a subject for another day. What I'm saying is when you consider all that has happened in Brooklyn, with Kyrie not being there, with James Harden coming in out of shape, not once, but twice, okay? I'm not blaming Kevin Durant. I'm saying it ultimately is going to be held against him. If Steph Curry...
So you just don't like the way Kevin Durant went about forming his own team? You don't like it?
I didn't say that. What I'm saying is I'm a news guy, y'all. At the end of the day, I'm telling you what's going to happen is if Steph Curry wins the championship, folks are going to say you left that for this.
Stephen A., but that's like we can't have it both ways.
How?
Because we held it against him for leaving. People said it's the weakest move, and now he leaves. And now we're saying, you shouldn't have left. You left the greatest shooter of all time.
Guys, I'm going to try this one more time. Do you believe that people are going to do that anyway?
No, I don't think people, when we look at his legacy, I don't think people are going to say, his legacy is that he went to Steph Curry, then he left Steph Curry. No,
you don't think. I didn't say that.
Production on the court.
I didn't say he went to Steph Curry, he left Steph Curry. I said if Steph Curry wins the championship this year, people are going to be saying, you left Steph Curry to join Kyrie. They're not going to do that?
Oh, I'm sure.
Y'all telling me they're not going to do that?
I don't really think people are thinking about Kyrie Irving right now.
But there's so many other factors that go into that. Obviously, with what we're going through right now, nobody factored that into it. And by the way, if Kyrie Irving and James Harden were on the court together with Kevin Durant, we're having a different conversation.
And I've said that. And I've said that.
There's unmitigated factors that have came into this equation. So all I'm saying is, I'm not getting into, Stephen A., who's the better team. I can sit up there and say, I think the Golden State Warriors are a better coach than the Brooklyn Nets. I think their personnel and their continuity system fits better than the Brooklyn Nets. This is about individuality.
Which legitimizes your point that KD is having a better season. I'm making the argument that because of Steph Curry and what he's doing, combined with all the parts around him, I believe that he's in a position to have a better season. I think it's neck and neck for the MVP with those two right now. Do you disagree with that?
That's what I said to start this whole argument.
But what I'm asking you is this. Is there a large discrepancy between the two?
No.
All right, then why can't I make the argument for Steph Curry? Because I believe that. It's neck and neck.
I know, but you're going more of a feeling, and I'm sitting here giving you facts. Yeah, I'm sitting here giving you numbers. I thought we had a show on ESPN called Numbers Never Lie, and I'm giving you numbers. Now you're telling me the numbers are lying.
No, I'm not saying the numbers are lying at all, but you can sit up there and look at Kevin Durant, and I can sit up there and say, at 6'3", being a shooter, shooting long range from 28 and beyond. This is what this brother is doing. This is the profound impact that it's having on the Golden State Warriors. You can look at me and say, Kevin Durant is doing what he's doing, and he's always been more efficient. Kevin Durant was more efficient than LeBron James.
Yes.
But LeBron James got 4 MVPs.
Okay,
so what I'm trying to say, it's not always about, what your percentage is. It's about the impact that you have on a team's success. Now, you're telling me, Golden State, Brooklyn right now, they're in the Eastern Conference. It's stronger than the West is right now. But the expectations for the Warriors wasn't what they are now. That changed. We're talking about the Warriors winning the chip. We're talking about the Warriors winning the chip.
Understood.
Winning it all. Why are we doing that?
Because of Stephen Curry.
Damn right.
I
And that's what I'm saying.
All right.
We ain't talking about Brooklyn.
I don't know why you're raising your voice at me
We ain't
all the
talking
time.
about. We ain't talking about
Why you
Kyrie
put so much
winning
anger
We're
all the
all
time?
good now.
All right.
KD leads the league in scoring.
you understand what I'm
Huge
saying?
congrats
I
to
understand.
Steph Curry. Great to see
Man.
Ray Allen and Reggie there. Jay, always start in trouble when you
I
come
know.
here.
I
Look
can't
how
help-
you
I
get
can't help
him.
it. I can't
All
help
right.
it.
Actually, it was you. It wasn't him, but that's a different
It's a
subject for another
combination.
Listen,
day.
I can
You know what I'm
never
saying?
win these days,
You know
so
what
we'll
I'm
just
saying? I mean,
carry
come
on
on.
here. Marcus Spears'
y'all don't
former
know,
team,
dude.
the Dallas Cowboys, face my New York Football Giants. After leading the Cowboys to a 5-1 record through the season's first 6 weeks, Dak and the boys haven't been the same since their quarterback missed Week 7 contest with a calf strain. Since then, Dallas is just 3-3, scoring nearly 10 points fewer per game over that span. Daniel Jones questionable Sunday, and according to Jerry Jones, Prescott is in a slump. Take a listen.
Do you think Dak is in a slump right now?
Oh, I don't want to say that slump, but that's probably fair. But it's such a multi-faceted evaluation. But I would say that our offense is definitely away from where we were playing 5 and 6 games ago from the standpoint of production.
Big swagoo, Marcus Spears. The frame game, though. I mean, you're just killing them. Talk to me. Do you like Jerry saying this about Dak?
No, I don't. Just like last week, I didn't like him saying it about the wide receivers. But two things can be true. He's telling the truth. Dak is in a slump. But I don't like him saying it because this is the clear-cut leader of your football team, and you're going to have to depend on Ford more than you're going to have to depend on anybody down the road. And I think that's why you heard a little hesitancy from Jerry Jones when he was talking about this particular situation. Last week, he had no problem talking about the receivers not doing the right things and getting in position to help Dak out. But I think this week, you have to reconcile that Dak Prescott has been struggling. Now, slump is TBD for me. Like, I'm not ready to go off the edge and talk about a slump because I did see him a couple weeks ago lead what could have been a game-winning drive against the Las Vegas Raiders and put his team in a position to win the football game. I think if they win that game, we may be having an ultimately different conversation. But coming off of what we saw against the Washington football team, I think everybody pressed the panic button. Kansas City only scored 9 points. A lot of this has a lot more to do with Dak Prescott, but we're not going to absolve him of responsibility because we don't do it for any other quarterbacks. The bottom line is this. He has to play better in order for this team to have a shot at winning the Super Bowl because we're not talking about Dak Prescott just playing in general. We're talking about the guys that he may have to face in order to win a Super Bowl. And right now, his play will not beat those guys. Those guys being Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, potentially Kyler Murray, the way Matt Stafford and Sean McVay.
The Packers have gone through plenty of turmoil this year. Would Aaron Rodgers return? The immunized debacle, and now the toe seen around the world. Yet quietly, the Pack has climbed up the ranks to now possessing the #1 seed in the NFC with 4 games to play. So now what, Aaron?
You know, it's been a good year conversation between Brian and myself. I feel like I've been involved in a lot of conversations about certain individuals on the squad and also on other squads. But we've had a lot of guys who I think were kind of outcast guys. So I think that sets an attitude in the squad of guys who are able to set aside their ego and have some sort of chip on their shoulder and have some appreciation for coming together, being a part of chemistry in the locker room. It's a good feeling coming to work every day.
So you love being a Green Bay Packer right now, yeah?
I love playing ball, man.
Pat McAfee in uniform, suns out, guns out. Rodgers and the Packers restructured his contract in July to make the 2022 season the last year on his deal, also in such a way that it would help to facilitate a trade out of Green Bay after the season, if that's what Rodgers wants. So should Aaron Rodgers want to return to Green Bay after the season? Stephen A. Smith.
I've gone back and forth on this on several occasions, Swagoo. I'm of the mindset, yeah. And I've been very, very strong about the hell with Brian Gutekunst. You disrespected him, you dismissed him. There's certain things that there's no coming back from. But then Aaron Rodgers deliberately deceived everybody. Now, what would that have to do with what my position is? That has absolutely nothing to do with his relationship with Brian Gutekunst, right? But it does have everything to do with the perception of truth that we once attached to everything Aaron Rodgers was saying.
Fair.
Before, every word he said, I'm like, yeah, you Aaron freaking Rodgers. What the hell you mean? Shut up and play football. We got this. Dismissing him, not asking him for his input, not making sure that he was okay when you got rid of the quarterback coach or you got rid of a receiver or a couple of other veterans that he felt were extremely pivotal to the success of the team because of their influence in that locker room. We went on Aaron Rodgers' word and took what he said to us as gospel. And then when he started off the season after he came to training camp and gave that dissertation breaking down what his issues were with the franchise, his value in our eyes in terms of the substantive comments that he made went through the roof because we never heard anybody provide that much detail as to what a situation entailing themselves involved. But then when you saw how he was deliberately deceitful with his quote unquote being immunized as opposed to being vaccinated and stuff like that, and you take into account how it was so unnecessary. Because unlike Kyrie Irving, and for all my critiques about Kyrie Irving, let's be clear, the man should be allowed to play at the Barclays Center. If visitors could come into New York for the NBA and play at the Barclays Center, even though they're not vaccinated, Kyrie Irving should be allowed to play at the Barclays Center. So I don't understand that mandate in New York City at all, where visitors can show up and play, but he can't. But getting back to Aaron Rodgers, this ain't the NBA. This is not that situation. In the NFL, there are plenty of players who are unvaccinated that are still playing football on Sundays. He didn't have to lie. And so when you choose to lie anyway, just to convenience yourself, all of a sudden, that changes things. And that makes you look at Brian Gutekunst and go like this. Maybe he was so wrong. Maybe he was telling the truth about a few things. And maybe that's why Aaron Rodgers says they discuss things now. They're communicating now. The relationship is better now. Clearly, you don't have an issue with Matt LaFleur and his staff. You certainly don't have an issue with your teammates who you love and respect and believe in. All those things taken into consideration, I would say that amounts to him needing, or he should have, a willingness to be more receptive to statement.
I understand where you're coming from, and when you get that select group of people that talked about Aaron Rodgers with this situation in Green Bay, I thought he wanted out. That's where I stood. But all the other stuff, man, I was like, I'm not getting on that roller coaster. But here's the deal right now. No, I do not believe he's going to be in Green Bay. They've already facilitated, like Molly brought us in on this discussion, a way to get out of this situation at the end of the season. And whether he wins a Super Bowl, may have to revisit. My mind may be different, but it almost like a Super Bowl would tell me he may want to get out and go somewhere else anyway after getting that accomplished. But if they don't,
Swagger, just to keep you on the question, because of what he negotiated with his contract, he probably would be gone. We're asking you, should he want to return?
Yeah, that's what I said. Nah,
right.
No, he shouldn't. Because here's the deal. We heard all of the complaints, to your point, this offseason about what Green Bay is. And obviously, I said it before the season, S.A., winning is going to mask this. It's going to make everybody forget about all of the stuff that transpired in the offseason, all of the things that was said, the visceral interview that he did leading into the season, because right now we focused on football. And guess what Green Bay is doing like everybody thought they would with him at quarterback? Winning games. When we get to the offseason, therein lies the issue. Let me remind you, this is the same Aaron Rodgers that played in the NFC Championship last year and said it wasn't enough in order for him to come back. Like, what? So if it's not about winning, what is it about? Because you have been already winning in Green Bay. You missed going to the Super Bowl 3 times in this same organization. And none of that changed your mind about what you were willing to do and stay away from this particular offseason. So I think Super Bowl win, or if they don't, He does not return. I don't think he wants to return. I think he made that clear last year. I think the business side of it and the willingness of Green Bay to kind of lower themselves in order to make it convenient for him to return, i.e. going out and getting Randall Cobb because that was at his request. All of that is fine and great. But this franchise and organization, like I said before all of this started, I don't look at this as they've done a bad job. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers has a lot to do with their positioning and where they've been, but you still don't get the NFC championships if you didn't do a good job putting a roster together. That's what it really boils down to. So, no, I don't think he wants to return. I didn't think he wanted to return this offseason.
1 second. I want to go back to something you said, Stephen A., because you've been team president of the Aaron Rodgers, the Bad Man fan club. And this is a big change of heart for you, a big departure on where you were on this. So was the impetus for change where now you think he should stay and you're slightly more on the side of Green Bay, those immunized comments?
Well, I think that what happens, what I'm trying to say is that because he has shown a willingness to be so deceitful, it's got me wondering about how honest he was about Gutekunst. Combine that with the fact that he says he's now communicating with Gutekunst. See, that's the difference here. Swagoo, you're absolutely right. He won before. He came within the game of the Super Bowl 3 separate times that he didn't pull that off. So that's not new. Having teammates that he believed could get it done and having good relationships with them, that's not new. Him having a relationship with Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff, well, that's not new because they seem to have had a decent relationship at the very least for the 3 years that Matt LaFleur was there, even though at times there were people that were questioning Matt LaFleur's willingness to accept accountability as opposed to always throwing it on his assistants or one of his coordinators. But that seems to have subsided. So when Aaron Rodgers goes on Pat McAfee's show and he's talking about how we're communicating with one another, if there's a level of respect and deference that the Green Bay Packers are treating him with, which was clearly the reason he had a problem with them, if that problem has been eradicated to the point that he's enjoying himself now, the only reason he would want to leave is because of his personal life, wanting to be in some place other than Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I don't understand him not wanting to leave and not answering that question clearly, saying I'll be back in Green Bay.
I agree with that.
Just don't understand that.
I agree with that.
Aaron Rodgers 4 shy of passing Brett Favre as Packers all-time pass TD leader. Still ahead. Breaking news into First Take this morning. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski has tested positive for COVID-19. That according to the team. Baker Mayfield also testing positive. That according to our Adam Schefter. If both don't produce 2 negative tests in time for Saturday's game against the Raiders, they won't be available. The Browns are among many teams dealing with COVID issues, something to monitor. And on that note, we bring in our Adam Schefter. Adam, thank you so much for being with us. What's the latest that you're hearing regarding the Browns?
Well, Molly, here's the situation in Cleveland. There have been 14 players, 14 placed on the reserve COVID-19 list in the last 2 days in Cleveland alone. There have been at least 75 cases across the NFL the past 2 days. And so clearly, just as COVID is spiking across the country and Omicron is becoming a factor, it is no different in the National Football League than it is in our society today, than it is in the NBA, than it is in any sport, than it is in your city, your community, anywhere. It's a real factor here. And so the Browns now are playing on a short week. They have a game scheduled for Saturday against the Raiders. There really isn't any active discussion going on right now about postponing or canceling that game. And this is one of the reasons, maybe the main reason, that the NFL has expanded practice squads to 16 players so that if and when a team has an outbreak like the Browns have, they can pull from the practice squad, promote players, which is what the Browns have been doing, which is what we saw the Detroit Lions do last Saturday when they were playing in Denver against the Broncos and they signed 6 players off their practice squad onto the active roster. Now, this is a high number of players. And Cleveland has been through this before. You remember last year in the playoff game, they had players test positive. Their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, tested positive. He spent the playoff game watching it in his basement in his Cleveland home. The Browns won their first playoff game in a long time. And now we're looking at a similar situation for this weekend with Stefanski testing positive, Baker Mayfield testing positive, 14 players in all testing positive. Browns pulling from their practice squad while they try to get ready for a game this Saturday against the Raiders. And for all the people who wonder if the NFL is going to postpone or cancel this game, not to be callous or cold-minded, but this is a college football-less Saturday. This is a prime time window for the NFL. The NFL has this game scheduled for Saturday for a reason, because it's going to be immensely watched. And I don't think, barring a change here, that the league is looking to switch this game at this time.
Adam Schefter, I appreciate you being on the show, my man. Forgive this question. Forgive this question if it comes across as a bit ill-informed or just flat out stupid. But I'm very curious about this. We've seen Aaron Rodgers when he brought up being immunized, and we know that story. But we also saw him at midfield on many occasions prior to that talking to players. And we see these players after every game, sometimes before games, but definitively after games, where they're talking with one another, no mask on and things of that nature. I guess what I'm wondering about is when we look at the National Football League, have they thought about that and whether or not that has played a role in people potentially acquiring COVID-19 at all, just because of the communication and the interactions with one another, and are they planning on doing anything different than they've been doing?
Yeah. Well, what I would say to that, Stephen A., is that the NFL last year had a lot of science and data from those games, from the interaction of teams during the game, after the game, and I don't think that the league found any evidence that showed that there's transmission like that. I mean, we've seen the videos where players have hugged or exchanged pleasantries after a game, and then only to find out a day or so later that they had COVID, right? So we saw it Monday night. The Rams played a game against the Cardinals, came home the next day, and put how many players in the reserve COVID-19 list? Yes, it was 8, 9 players, whatever the number was. I don't remember exactly, but it was a high number of players. Those players were playing against the other team. Look, Odell Beckham Jr. did an on-field demonstration with Randy Moss and Steve Young on Monday night.
Yeah.
They're all hugging before the game. So, again, I think everybody's aware of it, and the league so far hasn't found that there is transmission that way. Now, could it happen? Of course. There's so much about this that we don't know. I know Baker Mayfield this morning feels, in the words of somebody, completely fine. Fine. No issues. And so I guess he's asymptomatic, but he tested positive.
Right.
And so it's a challenging spot, and I think it continues to evolve, and I think the league continues to look at the data and try to figure out how to best handle the situation.
Last question to you, Adam. I've covered collective bargaining for many, many years, as you have, and so you're going to be familiar. Yeah. You're going to be very, very familiar with the clause that I'm about to bring up. That's the best interest of the game clause. My recollection is that the league themselves, the commissioners, have a right to invoke that at any given moment. I'm not, you could talk about mandatory vaccination. You could talk about a lot of different things. But has that subject been broached at all? Because I know there have been numerous conversations with the National Football League Players Association. Has that been brought up? Has that been, anybody been curious about that?
Well, what do you want the commissioner to do in the best interest of the game, Stephen?
Well, I guess what I'm asking is there are people who believe that there should, just like you have administrators and you have coaches and people like that who must be vaccinated, that the same thing should be applicable to the players. That's what I'm talking about, somebody invoking that best interest of the game clause.
Listen, we're going in a direction where we don't know what's going to happen. It's hard for me to imagine that the commissioner, without the consent of the union, could unilaterally rule that players must be boosted or vaccinated. Look, I think it's a very low number of players that have been boosted from a percentage standpoint. And we saw this week the NFL send out a memo that said all Tier 1, Tier 2 employees, which includes all coaches, all front office members, must be boosted by December 27th. Now, is that going to go in the direction of the players? I guess it could, but even though the commissioner could have those powers in his authority, I still think he's going to need the consent of the union. Look, the union's been pushing for daily testing, and the NFL hasn't done that. So the unions wanted certain measures taken too. And I think it's incumbent on both sides, the NFL, the NFLPA, to figure out whatever is best in the best interest of the game together. Now, maybe I'm oversimplifying this, and maybe it's not that easy considering the relationship between the two sides. But if there's something that can ensure that the players and coaches and administrators are safer, that the games go on, why would somebody resist that idea? I know it's not that simple. Okay, I get it. And there'll be a lot of discussion with something I guess as polarizing as this particular topic. You should or shouldn't be boosted. You must be boosted. You must not. Players wanting to do their bodies what they want to do, as Aaron Rodgers has said. So there are a lot of issues. They're still unfolding. And when you have a spike in cases like this, and the NFL has not experienced a surge like this since the pandemic began, it's going to lead to a lot of conversations and a lot of ideas, and we're going to see things enacted, done to try to make sure that the people involved are safe as they can be and that the games go on.
Absolutely. Adam Schefter with the latest. Adam, thank you so much for being with us. I want to get a player's perspective. We bring back Marcus Spears. Marcus, your reaction to what you just heard there from Adam?
I mean, listening to Adam talking, SA questions, like the bottom line is we know it's a pandemic going on and you're operating on a day-to-day basis. You're adjusting to the things that take place and transpire within the league, especially when you see a spike like this. So obviously something is going on when you see this many players test positive and the new variant or whatever it's attributed to, and the league is going to focus on more protocols and how to figure out how to move forward and go about getting the season done. We saw it last year when it was every day. We was having conversations about COVID and vaccinations, and the NFL went through a full entire season. Stadiums are back full. You have more interaction with players. You got a new variant. All of these things are attributing to obviously COVID-19, the positive cases. But the bottom line is, like, we could sit on this show and we could have reporting from Shefty and reporting from all of our great reporters and people that find out information. The bottom line is when you wake up day to day, you got to figure out how to go about this. That's what it really boils down to. And we keep looking for long-term answers. The long-term answers is players are going to get COVID.
Do you think Dak is in a slump right now?
Oh, I don't want to say that slump, but that's probably fair. But it's such a multifaceted evaluation. But I would say that our offense is definitely away from where we were playing 5 and 6 games ago from the standpoint of production.
Let's check in with the NFC playoff picture. A pair of future Hall of Fame quarterbacks and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady have their squads atop the standings. The West has 3 teams in the mix, with the Cardinals pacing the group, and the Cowboys are right behind them. Now, Stephen A., I know it's a multifaceted evaluation, but are the Cowboys among the NFC's best teams?
I think so. I think that needs to be said.
What the hell are you smirking about? Bro, you can't get one word out before you start clowning about the Cowboys, man.
No, man. I really do. I really do think that they listen. Marcus and Molly, before you both so rudely interrupted me in the first hour, claiming that, I'm trying to set Dak up or whatever. Dak is not the dude that I would target if my intentions were so insidious and malicious. I would not do that, okay? Because Dak Prescott is the kind of leader and the kind of talent that will rise above that and show up when it really, really counts. This brother's big time. All I pointed out when I brought up the $164 million contract over 4 years, the $126 million in guaranteed dollars, the $66 million signing bonus, the $75 million in year 1 of the contract, all I was pointing out was the fact that if you're Jerry Jones, who ain't getting any younger and has openly acknowledged that Father Time has knocked on that door, okay, and is looking at his own mortality, he's saying, look, man, tomorrow ain't promised to me. I paid you this for a reason, my brother. I need you to step up and make sure you handle your business. Why? Because Jerry knows Ezekiel Elliott is not 100%. Jerry Jones knows he's had injuries and omissions on that offensive line. Jerry Jones knows that CeeDee Lamb has had a concussion, that Amari Cooper missed the game due to COVID, missed a couple of games, a COVID protocol, particularly against Kansas City. All right, Michael Gallup was out the first part of the season as well. He sees what Micah Parsons is doing, what Trayvon Diggs has done. He knows DeMarcus Lawrence is coming back, that Randy Gregory is back. He knows what he's got at his disposal. And what he's saying is, yo, the crew that we got here is big time. And if my quarterback is everything that my quarterback has been and is supposed to be, we should be right in that title picture. And I personally understand where Jerry Jones is coming from, and I totally get what he's saying. I don't see what the problem is with that. What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem? I don't understand.
The problem, well, the problem for you personally is that if anybody else did this, you would be talking about the owner shouldn't be saying this. That's number one. Number two is this.
Yes.
Number two is this. Jerry is right. I think we all agree with Jerry based on what he said. I think it's a little bit overblown. I thought Dak played fine against the Las Vegas Raiders. Turned the football over, but every quarterback does. We saw Tom Brady have his slumps. We saw Patrick Mahomes earlier this year have his slumps. I understand that, and we said that about those quarterbacks as well. The bottom line is this, though, and to answer the question, no. And it's because of what we're talking about. And I want to contextualize this, Molly, before people fly off the handle and say, how in the hell the Cowboys ain't the best among. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, in totality, they are one of the top teams in the NFC. But when I look at this from a little bit of a personal point of view, and also looking at the other teams that are considered to be the ones that they will have to go through in the playoffs, right now, offensively, is where we actually hung our hat on the Dallas Cowboys for a large majority of this season. The defense is championship level defense. I don't want that to be news breaking to people. The Dallas Cowboys defense are a championship defense because of what they have. Yes, I know we lament about Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. DeMarcus Lawrence, a hell of a football player. Randy Gregory showed his impact immediately. Finally, Van Der Esch is playing a little bit better because he's feeding off of guys. But the bottom line is, man, we talking about Green Bay. We're talking about Tampa Bay with two quarterbacks that are leading the MVP conversation.
Okay.
We're talking about the Arizona Cardinals, who are sitting there at 10-3. Obviously, they lost to the Rams. The Rams seem to have figured things out with Sean McVay and figuring out how to get back to some offense.
It's one game.
To have some,
they won two in a row, but the first one was against Jacksonville. That don't really count.
Okay, that's fine. But they have gotten back to the things that will make them successful, and they just beat the team that we all had number one in the NFC based on record. I don't think everybody felt like the Cardinals were the best team. So the bottom line is, when you ask, are they among the NFC's best? Yes, by record. But the way the offense is playing and the way Dak is playing right now, no, because I do not expect Aaron Rodgers to have a slump. I do not expect Tom Brady to have a slump. I expect the Arizona Cardinals to bounce back. I think Matt Stafford is starting to ascend. That's the context I'm talking about.
Which legitimizes the comments of Jerry Jones.
Nobody said he was wrong.
Hold on. Calm down, big boy. You ain't got the huff and puff. You ain't blowing the house down, brother. Chill out and relax.
You sitting there trying to be calm. We know what the hell you saying.
Why you panicking?
We know what you saying.
How come I can't speak?
I don't want to hear you go through the contract numbers again.
All I'm just trying to say, I'm not going to bring up the $164 million contract. I promise. I'm not going to do that. The point that I'm trying to make, Swagoo, is this. If I'm my buddy Jerry Jones, and I see that Aaron Rodgers over there looking like he about to capture another league MVP. Or I see that 44-year-old quarterback tinkering towards 45, and that man is playing like a league MVP himself. And I look at my roster, and I look at my defense, which Swagoo just went on the national television airwaves and said it's a championship caliber defense. What I'm looking at is, all right, 1 minute my receiver's down, another minute my running back is down. But my quarterback ain't down. He might have had that calf injury a few weeks ago, but he's all right now. So guess what? The bottom line is, with that money I'm paying you, you should be able to answer the call, because I'm going to need you to do it, because I got Matthew Stafford, I got Kyler Murray, I got Aaron Rodgers, and I got Tom Brady to deal with. If you do what I need you to do, then guess what? We could take them all out, which makes Jerry Jones' comments not only appropriate, but necessary. I completely applaud what Jerry Jones
Well,
has
just
said.
tell him in
The
private.
Cowboys are one of the elite teams in the National Football League. That means you got
Marcus.
the pressure. You got to handle the pressure. Can you do it?
Marcus, can
you
you
do it?
imagine if
Can you
Stephen
do it?
A. owned a team? Like, can you even
my
imagine?
God.
There would be daily radio appearances.
Molly,
it wouldn't even be.
he
He'd
would-
be 10 times worse
He'd
than
be
Jerry.
firing people every day. He'd be firing people every day.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because he is a week-to-week guy. He can't. The
It's
big
fluid.
picture, it's fluid. I had to cut this player because it's
impulsive.
fluid. He didn't play. We may bring him back next week, but we ain't gonna have him this week because he didn't play well last week.
There's
And
certain
he'll be 0-95 in his first 3 years
No,
because he think
no.
everybody supposed to be
gotta leave it
KD,
there.
LeBron, and Steph every game.
No. I
Yes.
would think that everybody has a job to do, a responsibility. Do your job.
Okay.
But I would
Okay,
confess.
Bill Belichick, let's
I
go.
would make this confession.
What?
I do have a problem some weeks with people getting a ride home. I think certain people deserve to go and find their way home after the way they play. I mean, I really
goodness.
do. I do believe that certain
Okay.
people,
Molly, that
certain
is our
people,
answer.
they shouldn't even have
That's
a ride
our
home.
answer.
Goodness, you're gonna have people.
That is our
I
answer.
can't. I can't.
Exactly.
Just carrying their bags and walking home,
SA,
multimillionaires. Okay, cool.
Whenever you join an ownership group, stay the hell out of the way. Just enjoy your floor seats, watch the game, and leave the stadium. You need to be.
I would not be floor seats. I would have a suite.
Okay,
Well,
all right. I need
do
to
whatever
go.
the
I'm
hell
done.
you want to do.
I'm
Just
done.
stay out of the way.
I'm done.
Because
I would have a
everybody
suite.
can't get fired for a bad 30 minutes.
Thank you. Just roll the bumps. Just stop this. Still ahead on first take. Aaron Rodgers' shocking sound about the Packers organization. Is he going to bowl even if the Packers win the Super Bowl this season? A storybook career adds another amazing chapter last night in the Mecca, no less. Stephen A. has narrowed down the top 5 moments of Steph Curry's career. Don't miss that. It'll be fun.
Been a good year conversation between Brian and myself. I feel like I've been involved in a lot of conversations about certain individuals on the squad and also on other squads. But we've had a lot of guys who I think were kind of outcast guys. So I think that sets an attitude in the squad of guys who are able to set aside their ego and have some sort of chip on their shoulder and have some appreciation for coming together, being a part of chemistry in the locker room. It's a good feeling coming to work every day.
So you love being a Green Bay Packer right now, yeah?
I love playing ball, man.
Ooh, sometimes it's what you don't say. Despite years, Aaron Rodgers has just one Super Bowl title to his name and owns an 8-9 record in the postseason outside of his run to Super Bowl 45. This year's group currently has the third shortest odds to hoist the Lombardi at 7-1. Stephen A., would a Super Bowl win this season make Rodgers return more or less likely to Green Bay?
To me, probably more. The reason I say that way, and I could be wrong because I don't know, but my thinking is to deliver another championship more than a decade after you won your first one, to be as phenomenally great as he is, and to have done it after making so much noise. Brian Gutekunst and those guys have stood down. Randall Cobb has been added to the roster. They've consulted with Aaron Rodgers on a bevy of other moves that they have made. You see his teammates and how they gravitate towards him, how they feel about him. And obviously, if he stayed, that means it would be prioritizing that they stay because he certainly wouldn't want to be there without them, and they wouldn't want to be there without him. And I think in light of that, it is possible. Obviously, with the contract that he's negotiated, it's not feasible for them to keep him on board. But just like they just restructured this, they could restructure something else in the event that they were in accord with him, that they wanted him to stay. He will have gotten everything that he wanted. And I think the only reason he would leave is because on a personal level, there are better places to live than Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's the only reason I would see him leaving if they ended up winning a Super Bowl based on the relationships he says he now has, swagoo, with the people in charge.
And say I think he's less likely to return either way, Super Bowl or if they don't reach that level. And let me say this, bro. First of all, like, I get it. I understand what the quarterback means in the NFL. Let me put this PSA out to all of the Green Bay Packers players. Y'all better handle y'all own damn business because Aaron Rodgers is absolutely handling his own. So If you sitting there waiting to figure out what 12 is going to do about his future in Green Bay, and it's going to determine your future or how you thinking about your future, get off that, bro. Your family got to be taken care of. Let me just get that out there. Devontae is coming up on a contract year. Aaron Jones just re-signed with the Green Bay Packers. Think about what you guys have to do personally and make a decision in that regard, especially speaking to Devontae, because he's going to be good on whatever team he go to.
That's
because
right.
he'll have that option, and he can choose to play with another good quarterback that will give him the same type of opportunities. Here's the thing for me when it comes to Aaron as far as the Green Bay Packers. Last offseason, I thought it was no chance that he would come back. He did the interview, and then we were all like, oh, man, he spilled the beans. Still, for me, it just was talking to me, because after all of that stuff transpired during the offseason, you showed up for the first day of camp. That's business. That's football business. So, Stephen A., what did they do? They made the business easier for his exit. You think Aaron Rodgers, out of all of the things that we've seen, out of even the immunization point, you don't think Aaron Rodgers is calculated by now to start setting things up? I think what happened this particular offseason is both parties made a compromise. Aaron said, yo, I'm going to come back. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to play well like we all knew he would, and we'll have success. So to talk about all of the things that transpired in the offseason will go away. But S.A., that don't mean they didn't. That don't mean all of the stuff that transpired leading into this season is just coincidentally fixed now because they're having success. See, this is what football does. Football hides the inefficiencies and flaws when you having success. That is the age-old tale in any sport, right? We can go back to championship teams and they had turmoil, but we don't focus on that because they won a championship or because they were very good. I think in this particular situation, Aaron Rodgers came back. Green Bay decided to kowtow and be what they needed to be in order for this year to take place. Hopefully they both can get a championship out of it, is their thinking, and Aaron will ride off because they made it easier in the preseason for him to do so.
Yep. Let's leave it there because there's a few more things we still want to get to, guys. The 2015 NBA Finals was Steph's first championship. It ended Golden State's long drought. Where does that rank on Steph's all-time best moment? Stephen A's answer in just a bit.